poetry is just such a weird art form. Unless you already are like into poetry, you don't go to poetry. You're like, oh, poetry, if it's a funeral or a wedding, you have to go and fucking find a poem to read, which is horrible and not fun. There are lots and lots of poems, and lots of them are bad. Like, imagine if poetry was put on the stage in a way that was like, it's pop. This pile of coat hangers has been there since the 31st of January. And I just walk over them all the time. I just walk on the coat hangers. I could pick them up. I'm a poet. I don't think I can say it in a normal voice. I can't say I'm a poet. I don't know if it's embarrassing to be a poet or it's just that poet is such a gross word. I wrote a book of poetry and the book is called Head Girl. It came out in 2020, 10 years since my last year of high school when I was head girl. I'm a nerd for Shakespeare and shit, and I love rhyme and meter, but I like shun them carefully. My poems are real lowbrow, which I want. I don't want to make highbrow art. Embarrassing. In 2019, I put together a line-up poetry show called Show Ponies. I was like, let's just get really cool poets who are good at reading their poetry on stage and like give them backup dancers. Obviously. Why wouldn't you? Poetry is becoming more accessible and I am most interested in work that is smashing theatre and literature together. I don't care who you are, where you're from, what you did, as long as you love me. I want to love and be loved by thousands of men. I want to be the unyielding, indescribable object of desire. I don't think enough people know how beautiful I am naked. I was trying to keep track, but I lost my diary. I lost it in February. Mum told me she sometimes wonders what she did wrong when we were little. She also pleaded with me not to indulge in too much promiscuous behavior, but I ignored her because I wish to be worshipped. I wish to be an influence. I wish to be immortalized in many forms and to witness the rise and fall of those forms within my lifetime. I wish to be eternal while I am awake. Maybe if you'd known me when I was a teenager, I would have made you shift in your seat thinking about my new body, my new thoughts, my new sex body, my soft skin, my thin limbs. Perhaps your eyelids would have flickered, imagining the rustle of my uniform skirt. Such heavy, practical fabric, such an unbelievable event to feel a boy's hand slide up my thigh, to make my unsuspecting pelvis heat up. Oh, what a fine thing is a boy. Yes, boys are so sweet and so am I. Oh boy, I'm a dream. Banana says my nipple is very pronounced. I am skipping for boys. I am skipping for boys. I am dancing like someone who is trained to dance for boys. I am tripping over in front of them. I am biting my tongue. I am lifting up my dress. I am begging the boys to let me come near. I am kissing the boys. I am kissing the boys. They are kissing my breasts. They are kissing my belly. I am sinking through the mattress. I am sighing. I can be heard through walls. Yeah, baby. Oh, baby. 'Cause I love to get heard. Hello. How's it going? Yeah, not bad. I've applied for quite a bit of money to make quite a big deal of a show. Basically the show of my book, giving it the Show Ponies treatment.
I will find out tomorrow whether or not my application is successful. It's such a huge deal in my life and at this point in my progression as a human. Yeah, I have a very different perspective on the book than I had when I handed it in for publication. In this particular relationship that most of the book is about, I feel like the boy in question had quite an impact on my sweetness and the love poems. I thought that they were really beautiful love poems, but when I read them now, I can see a whole lot of stuff that I didn't see when I was writing them about how unhealthy the relationship was. So it's very weird to read my poems in retrospect. I feel empathy for myself that I didn't feel when I wrote them. And I'm kind of like, you don't need to feel that way about love, little Freya. It's kind of fucked up. Last year, during lockdown, I kind of had a little sexuality awakening, I guess. I knew that I was bi for a few years before that, but in the way where you're like, well, I'm not really bi because I haven't proved it by fucking a lady. I feel like lots of people are like, this is when I knew I was gay. But because I liked boys, it didn't have the same, obviousness to it. My girlfriend lives in Australia and we got together during a global pandemic over the internet. Mostly we talk on the computer. And one time I did accidentally set off a filter when we were having internet sex. Shall I show the camera? Okay, I'll show the camera. I haven't written anything new for ages. I haven't finished a poem apart from commissions since I finished the book. I gotta get my ass into gear, write some new shit. And it almost felt like it either needed a tiny bit less or a tiny bit more in that gap. We are taking show ponies to Featherston Booktown, which is a literary festival in Featherston.
Yeah, I think a match tempo is maybe a bit faster than what we've been doing it.
This guy, Thomas Friggins, had been like, I'm a drummer and I'm interested in poetry. And I was like, you wanna just fucking try this weird thing? And he was like, yeah. I want people to be like, whoa, poetry, that shit is cool. I'm waiting to find out about the funding today. I'm waiting for an email. But I haven't got an email yet. We are the opening night event, 10 p.m. in Featherston, which is interesting for getting crowds.
We just need to be conscious of the neighbourhood.
Oh, it really needed to be told that earlier.
Yeah, sorry, but...
Well, I have just been informed that as part of the venue hire, we're supposed to be kind of quiet after 10:30, which is halfway through the show. And the show is not a quiet show. If we get noise control called on us, then that will be really funny. Look, that did fuck all, didn't it?
So next up we actually have the mastermind of show ponies, Freya Daly-Satro.
Am I original? Yeah. Am I the only one? Yeah. I come into my own in a dimly lit room. I come forth like a visitation upon myself. I come to realize that if it were ever possible, if it were ever remotely achievable for me to communicate absolutely every single thing I know and think and believe to any other given person, then that person would choose to die undeniably. I am a prophet. I am a visionary. I am an icon. I am God! 3 years ago, I went to see a therapist every fortnight, and every fortnight I promised her I wouldn't suicide in the next fortnight, and I kept my promises because I used to keep promises. I go behind a curtain to show how bad I can be. I go behind a blackout curtain to show it harder. I show it can be used to burn through the thin skin between the imagined soul and that old drum beat that glows. Die, 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 die. Oh hell, what a catchy tune. Oh hell, what a tap your feet. Oh hell, doesn't it make you wanna die?
Well, I didn't get funded, which is fine. Failure is good for me. I feel sad. I've had this feeling a lot, lately. Oh well, can't have everything. So when I didn't get the funding, I emailed and I was like, can I see the assessor's feedback? One of the assessors really liked it and one really fucking hated it. And they were the one whose feedback I read that broke my little heart. The big thing that's been rattling around in my head for over a month is her performance makes a virtue of its amateurism and ultimately lacks polish. It imprinted on my brain as soon as I read it. I was like, that's the worst thing anyone's ever said about me, and I want to die. I started thinking about the root of the word, because it comes from French, and amateur in French is lover of. And then I recalled this thing that I actually said in high school in a French oral exam that was like, je suis amateur de théâtre. It means I love theatre. So I basically said what this person has said about me, but in this very earnest, very meaningful, nerdy way. And then I was kind of like, maybe I do make a virtue of my amateurism, bitch. I'm in the phase that I get to with writing that's like, things are coming, which is a very nice feeling. I've gathered a lot of notes that I've taken over the past year, and I'm kind of figuring out what goes together and seeing what sparks more stuff. I'm having a very big day. My girlfriend has arrived from Sydney, and it was a surprise. And then I thought I'll read a new poem, which I haven't done for a really long time, and I was going to work on it, but then my girlfriend arrived, which both meant that it was more important to finish the poem and more difficult. Thanks, Beck. All right. Isabel says everyone has a poetry voice. To which I say, yes, everyone has a fucking poetry voice. When I am talking in my normal voice, I am just on fire and pirouetting through a commercial kitchen. When I am talking in my normal voice, I am just wetting my words like toilet paper and flinging them at the ceiling. when you say poetry, you gotta do photorealism on the words. Oh, Beck, when I can't say poetry, I find myself doing photorealism on normal words for you. I love you. You are beautiful. It's like sanding down and polishing a hot dog and sanding it down again. The clock fucking ticks, the hot dog thins, but it's so shiny, and how can I write a love poem if I'm not even angry? All I can think is peaceful things like, tell me I'm your sweetie pie or I'll fucking kill you. All I can do is state the obvious, like, you're a girl and I want to hold your face in my hands. I want to hold your face in my hands. I want to hold your face in my hands. Thanks, guys.
My friend Ursula said to me, and I always think about it, people don't read your poetry to find out about you, they read your poetry to find out about themselves. I just feel like I'm doing what I need to be doing. I should be sick of myself, and I'm a bit sick of myself, but I'm kind of like, I'm just gonna juice a couple of last bits out of me.